Jonathan Yates. Get up for Jonathan.
Hey, it's great to be back in New York. I love New York, and what I love the most about New York is when people think I live here. Walking to the show tonight, a guy came up to me and asked me if I knew where he could buy some crack cocaine. What a cool way to meet Hunter Biden. It reminded me of the last time I talked to his father. I said, Mr. President, I think the reason the American people were so happy with President Obama is that he could lean on experienced Washington hands like you and Pelosi for advice, but you're leaning on Bernie Sanders and AOC, who used to be a carpenter and a bartender. And he said, well, Jonathan, that's just my secret to make the American people happy. And I said, well, Mr. President, how is it going to make the American people happy that you're taking advice from someone who used to pound boards for a living and someone who used to sling drinks? And he said, because my son Hunter is always happiest after he's nailed a cocktail waitress. And I said, well, Mr. President, what about that book coming out by the New York Post reporter about Hunter talking about the prostitutes, the drugs, the alcohol? And he said, stop right now. My son has never been accused of impersonating a member of Congress. Now, when Biden was elected, I was living down in Florida, not that far from where Trump lives, and I remembered when Napoleon lost and was exiled to the Isle of Elba. He was known as the Emperor in Exile. When Trump lost and came back to Florida, some people wanted to have him labeled as an invasive species. But others were open-minded, and I pointed out we could use him at the Palm Beach Zoo for the primate exhibit, depending on what color he had had his hair covered that much as a silverback. And then there was concerns about his porn star girlfriend, and I said, look, she can work at the zoo as a snake handler, and then when the circus comes in town, she can be a sword swallower. So the big news after that is I got an Alexa. No, not a mail-order bride, not an inflatable love doll, but the personal assistant from Amazon. And like a lot of people, I'm worried about these big tech companies getting so much info on me. And I asked Alexa, should I worry about Facebook, Uber, Google getting all this info on me? And she said, I knew you were going to ask me that. And then I came to realize the reason Alexa had so much information on me is my wife is having affairs with so many Amazon Prime drivers and pilots, they have her listed as a fulfillment center. So Alexa set us up with a marriage counselor, and it worked well. There were problems at the beginning. The first thing the counselor said, she really focused on communications. She said, your wife needs to talk dirty during sex. My wife said, I tried that, but I couldn't get cell phone reception from the hotel. And then she said, your wife needs to tell you the next time she has an orgasm. And she said, for that to happen, I'd have to join her OnlyFans account. And then we came to another one where we had sex in a room in the house with the lights off, because the intimacy from the lights off, yet the familiarity would be wonderful. And at first it seemed to work. There seemed to be a lot of scratching, playful biting, passionate scratching. But then when we turned the lights on, we realized that the scratching and the biting was from the screws sticking out of our IKEA furniture. And then Alexa said, now I want you to try what I call our Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee option, where you film yourself having sex and send it to our contest. Well, I was a little worried. There wasn't a whole lot of movement, a whole lot of noise, but guess what? 2 pieces of good news. First piece of good news, the film took first place in the silent video department. Second piece of good news, my wife got a modeling contract from a mannequin company. And then the third piece, when we were talking to Alexa about it, my wife confessed that sometimes she would actually fall asleep when we were having sex, and I said, well, you know what? I can't tell the difference. So, I moved to Chapel Hill recently, which is very progressive. It is so progressive that Thursday is now the favorite day of the week because that's when we recycle. And when I get my recycling correct, the garbage guys will leave a nice little note for me. I mean, how can you not love a place that's so progressive, even as the garbage cans get participation awards? The next thing they'll always do when they leave me a note, they'll leave me their little business card. And I thought about a guy, in New York and New Jersey, picking up the garbage is a front for the mob, but in Chapel Hill, it's a networking event. And what I also love about Chapel Hill is I live very close to a food co-op. and they've got a fantastic bakery. And so just so they'll think I'm progressive, whenever I order the pecan rolls from the bakery, I ask for chopsticks. And then when I'm checking out, I'll also let them think I'm progressive too. As I'll say, I've just started a vegan diet. Is there a typical brand of turkey bacon you can recommend to me? And then one thing I know from going to the Progressive Co-op is that, my mother would abuse us as a child because when she would make us salad for dinner, never once did she ever use a lettuce spinner. So Jonathan Yates, thank you very much.